George Bush received one of the worst messages in U.S. history.
I knew that this was not a coincidence. I thought about what I would say. I opened the door to the room, came in. That's when I walked up to the president and I leaned over and I whispered into his right ear, "A second plane hit the second tower. America is under attack."
The situation was critical, but the president knew he couldn't panic. He was in front of excited children who had the highest authority in the land in their classroom.
I remember when he came in, even as a 7-year-old, you know who the president is, right? And I remember even feeling that young feeling kind of starstruck and giddy, like I'm going to Disney World or something. And I put my hand over my heart. When you think about patriotic things when you're that little, you do the Pledge of Allegiance every day, and I literally put my hand over my heart.
The situation was out of control. Downtown New York was on fire after a terrible attack. But George Bush could do nothing more than keep his cool.
Andy Card comes up to behind me and says, "Second plane has hit the second tower, America's under attack." And I'm watching the child read. And then I see the press in the back of the room beginning to get the same message I just got. And I could see the horror etched on the face of the news people who had just gotten the same news. During a crisis, it's really important to set a tone and not to panic. And so I waited for the appropriate moment to leave the classroom. I didn't want to do anything dramatic. I didn't want to, lurch out of the chair and scare the classroom full of children. And so I waited.
His body position changed completely when he heard the news. He looked distracted, but he didn't want to alert anyone.
I was studying him intently, and his mouth was kind of drawn and tight, and there was for just a brief moment, sort of a startled look in his eyes, and also a weightiness to him, if you will. I could tell he was really focused on trying to get through that event.
And of course, while he remained calm in front of the children, terror reigned in the streets of downtown New York City.
Let's just get back. Get back.
What is it? They just think there's going to be another explosion.
The world witnessed an act that could be considered a declaration of war. And George Bush had little to do but to remain calm in the face of it all.
You're literally seeing the mindset of the President of the United States play out on TV. Everything about what he thought he was about as a president is changing right in front of you. We hear about the great wartime leaders, Churchill, Roosevelt, others, days, if not weeks, to process and gird themselves for what was ahead. This is all happening in real time.
The horror playing out on the streets of New York City needed an immediate response from the president, who was only able to give one when he arrived at the White House.
The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America.
However, of course, the president's condemnation of the events wouldn't be America's only response, for it was here that the figure of George Bush went from being the calm man who received the news in front of a room full of children to a leader who would start a war.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war. These are opening stages of what will be a broad and concerted campaign.
The truth is that the terrorist attack took everyone by surprise. No one could have imagined that it could happen, least of all the president, who was at an activity with little children.
Andy Card comes up to behind me and says, "Second plane has hit the second tower, America's under attack." And I'm watching the child read. And then I see the press in the back of the room beginning to get the same message I just got. And I could see the horror etched on the face of the news people who had just gotten the same news. During a crisis, it's really important to set a tone and not to panic.